I haven't made a video in a while, but I thought that I'd get back into it by creating a video on how to use the Stable Diffusion Web UI and how to actually install that on your local computer. What you will need is a decent graphics card. So I'm running a 3060 Ti that's got 8 gig of RAM, and this is enough, but still I'm finding limitations. If you've got an older card, this may not work, but if you've got a decent modern graphics card, you should be able to do this. AI, people have been talking about it a lot lately and get really worried about it. And after playing around with it a bit, I don't think artists really have a lot to be worried about. Concept art, it is quite good for. I suppose it is quite good for typing in prompts and getting some ideas. But the place that I see it is really more just idea generation, especially for indie game developers, because paying an artist to do something like this is a lot of money. And I think like a prompt like this, or an image like this, I think I just prompted a game inspired by racing games on PlayStation 1, anti-grav racer or something. Now all of these things have wheels. I guess it didn't know what an anti-grav racer was, but the vehicles are in the air. So it's kind of picked that up there. You've got vehicles in the air here. But just kind of getting this idea and the vibe that it's going with is pretty cool, and I think that it created some interesting images there. This one was just I think the prompt for it was a walking simulator where you deliver mail around a town, and so it gave me a few images like this. Now I was just playing with the default model that came with this, and there's plenty of models that you can download. I think the prompts for these ones were like Dark Souls or something. I think I just gave it a very simple prompt, but you can be very, very specific. However, getting something exactly what you want is going to be hard. So if you're wanting a very particular pose for a character, it's going to be difficult to get that without adding extra stuff. And you can get it. There are people that have made add-ons for the AI that will teach it how to create particular poses. So if you want a guy, holding a gun on his shoulder or something, there may be someone out there that has made in addition to that. Okay, it is pretty good at just generating interesting landscapes, though. At least the models that I were using were. And I think I just typed in for these, I typed in bright landscape, make something awesome. And I just wanted to see what it could come up with. I'd been playing around with it a bit before. It is really good at creating faces and people for the most part. Of course, we know hands don't work very well with it, but there are again improvements to that constantly all the time. So what we're going to do, the first thing that we need to do is we need to install Python. Now I tried this with Python 11, which I had installed by default. So you're actually going to want to install Python 10. So to get Python 10, the link is down below, but it's this one here. That one, Windows Embeddable Package, 64-bit more than likely. And I'll just download that. I won't download it there. I'll put it in my downloads folder. I don't want the zip. I want the installer. Okay, so I want that installer. Once it's installed, most important part. This is really important. You must tick this button here. Add python.exe to path. I don't even know why it's not selected by default, but we need that. So I'm going to install. You might get asked for administrator access. If this takes too long, I'll cut this part out of the video, but it should go pretty quick. It's Coke, by the way. This video is sponsored, I wish. All right, let's get back into it. Almost done. While you're waiting for Python to install, you can go over to Git. That link is below, and you're going to download the latest version of Git for Windows and install that. The default installation should be fine. Pretty sure I didn't do anything different when I did that. I'm not going to run through that again. The reason I ran through the Python installation again was because I wanted to stress the importance of the path option that was there. Okay, so once we've got Python installed and we've got Git installed, you can open the third link, which is the Stable Diffusion Web UI link. It's going to look like this. And this is all the code for it, the source code for it. This is what the interface is going to look like, except usually it's in like dark mode for me. and there's a bunch of features, and then we've got installation and running. So this says 3.10.6 for Python. I'm using 3.10.10, and I'm going to hope that it works. And maybe this just hasn't been updated. Python gets updated quite often. Install Git, we're done. We're going to copy this line of code here where it says git clone HTTPS. It's like there's actually one whole line. It's just wrapped around. So make sure that you get that. All right. With that done, we need to make a folder on our computer. So you're going to navigate to somewhere. I've gone to my data drive and I have found Stable Diffusion, which this is a folder that I made just a minute ago. I'll just delete it and make it again. Oh, I'm probably using it for something. Oh, no, I am. I know what I'm using it for. And then you're going to right click in here. And if you're on Windows 11, you've got to do this, show more options. But you want to click Git Bash here. Git Bash here. That's going to bring this up. And you can paste in this, except I don't want that. So I might just go and copy that again. Just delete that. I'll go and copy that again properly. Copy. And if that doesn't work, I will type it up. Control V doesn't work. You have to right click and paste. Okay, so I'm just going to have to use the arrow keys to go back to the start there and get rid of that there. I'm not sure why that's doing funny things there. And hit enter. This is going to make a clone of it, and hopefully it will. It's going to basically what it's doing is it's downloading the Stable Diffusion Web UI from github.com, and then it's done. So then we can close that, and we can go into here. We've got Stable Diffusion Web UI folder, that's in here. Everything's ready to go. Now we just need to run this batch file down here. Windows batch file Web UI user. Not the one at the bottom, not the shell script, but the batch file. Looking at it, looks like that. I'm going to double click it. The first time this runs, it will download all the dependencies that Python needs. And this can take a little bit of time. And hopefully it works with Python 3.10.10 and not a requirement to have 3.10.6. I'll know soon enough because it will crash. Just make sure it gets past the first bit. This part here could take a little while. And I'm just noticing that the audio on my microphone is smashing into that red bar. So hopefully the audio is fine on the video. Let's move it away from me a little bit. Should be a bit better now. All right, it seems to be going fine. So while that's doing its thing, we're going to switch over to the last place. And that is this website called huggingface.co. There are other places to get models from. The reason I picked this one is it doesn't give you any image previews. And there are some questionable ones out there. So what we want to do here is we want to click text to image on the left-hand side. So this link is down below, text to image. And we want to download this one, Stable Diffusion 1.5. Now there is Stable Diffusion 2.1. It is newer, except Stable Diffusion 1.5 apparently gives better results. I haven't played around with it a whole lot, but this one here is the one that I'm going to use. And the downloads for it are actually here, files and versions. And we're going to download, if you can get the safe tenses version, that's the one that you generally want. This is an older kind of format, the CKPT, that's an older format. But the safe tenses one is the newer one. As you can see, they're pretty much identical. But this one is updated 30 days ago. So it's just a newer way of storing it. They are quite large, so 8 gig. I've seen bigger. And we're just going to download that. It says it's stored here. You can still download it. And the place that you want to download it to is you want to go to your folder where you put it. So Stable Diffusion Web UI. And you want to find the folder called Models. This is where, and in here, you want to find Stable Diffusion. Okay, in here, this is where you want to save it. Okay, so there's other folders there that it makes when you download Stable Diffusion, but I'm just going to put it into here. Save. Okay, it's a pretty quick download. It's actually not too bad considering that it's almost 8 gig. Now let's go back to here. All right, that has successfully installed. It's installed some other stuff. Don't worry about this warning if you get it. It's not going to cause any errors. But this is still running down the bottom here, so we just wait for a download. I might cut this part of the video. We'll see what happens.
20 minutes later.
Okay, mine's finally done. It actually took about 10 minutes, I guess, to do that. So I've just snipped the video there. I also realized that it does download and install a default model, which is version 1.5, the pruned version, which is, I was looking at this, which I may actually download and install this one just to kind of show you how other ones work. Let's go ahead and grab this one, save tensors, and download. Put that into there. Go back to here. Okay, so it is currently running, but I want to show you how to actually launch it. So I'm going to close this. And to launch it, we go to our folder, so data, and we go into the folder. There we go. And you just run this down the bottom and it does it. So first time you run it, it's going to install it. Anytime you want to run it again, you double click that, and it will go through and run. It will launch it. Now, it might take 30 seconds to actually load it up. All right, here we go. This is where it's running. So it's actually running locally in a web server on your computer, and you access it through a web browser. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. To copy and paste in here, you highlight and you just right click, and then, oops, that's not Internet Explorer. Okay, so open a new tab. Here, Control V, hit enter, and here we go. So we're ready to start generating something. Now at the top here, you get the link of all the models. Okay, so any models that you've got in that folder, that's where they go, and you can just change it. And sometimes it can take a couple of minutes to reload the models, especially if it's a large one. But I'll just use the one that came with it. And say I want to generate a landscape. I might play around with some of the settings first. So I might have it 800 wide by 600. And you can play around with some of these. I don't know what all of these do. They're just kind of different ways of sampling data from its massive data set. So if I type in fantasy landscape, castle on a hill, fire, lava, and say I want a waterfall, and I really want a waterfall, I can put it in brackets. The more brackets I have, the more likely that is going to come up. Okay, I'll click generate. I'm only doing 1 and 1 here. Now, I know that it is currently working. It's just doing a little thing down the bottom here, setting some stuff up. You can see it running in the background. It's going. Normally you get a preview as it goes, so I'm not sure what. There we go. Eee, not a fan of this one, especially with that at the top there. Okay, but yeah, that's pretty horrible, that one. That's pretty bad. I'm going to get rid of that waterfall bit. Sometimes forcing it to do something like that, you know, it can do weird things. Now, I'm not sure why the preview's not showing up. So I'm going to run mine slightly different, because usually it will show, oh yeah, there it is. It's getting that preview happening. Okay, so we've got that. It looks pretty good. I'm going to refresh this and use the portraits one. So I've brought in a different model, and this one here says how you use it. It says use portrait plus style in your prompt. So I'll put that in here at the prompt. I might type, let's say female rogue standing in, oh no, female rogue in front of a, well, just try the prompt and stained glass window. Cartoon. Let's say cartoon. Well, that says illustration, but that's all right. We'll say. Yeah. It doesn't really matter what order. I'll click generate. And interested to see what this one comes up with. Not too bad. This. And I'm going to change the thing so it's an actual portrait. But it's got that general idea down. So like I said, I think this is a really good for concept art, for idea generation. And I'll type in another prompt in a second. I'll just let that one generate. Okay, so if I type in, similar to what I typed before, I'll just go back to the basic one. I'll go back to this one, the large one. And I'll type in concept art, high quality, PlayStation 1 racing game, similar to Wipeout, bright colors, fast movement, motion blur. What else could I type in? Combat. Let's see what comes up. So that is similar to what I had before, in terms of the general look of it, but that doesn't, it's not really that great. That's why I said I don't think that's much of a threat. Of course, I'm just playing around with this. I'll change it to a different one and see what happens. So if I change it to this, and maybe there's certain words in here that are like, this is going to look more like what I'm after, but that doesn't really look like a vehicle down the bottom there. That looks bizarre. If I get rid of PlayStation 1, that's probably causing it to go really janky. That looks like Knuckles over here. Okay, so that's interesting concept art kind of thing. It gives you an idea that you can work with. But like I said, I don't think this is going to be replacing actual artists soon. That needs a lot of training. You'd have to really train it on like every image that ever existed, which is, I don't think, possible. So if I was to maybe get rid of a few of these other words here, maybe get rid of this stuff at the end, the combat one's probably throwing it off. Yeah, see there, that's looking more like Wipeout. Okay, so it's just coming up with different things. I don't remember the exact prompt that I typed in to get the cool ones that I had the other day. You can also do big batches. So the more sample steps you have, the higher quality it's going to be. Also, you can turn on this high res fix, which it will resize, but you do need a lot of graphics RAM for that. I'll turn this up here. So if you mouse over it, it tells you what it does, how strongly the image should conform to the prompt. Lower values produce more creative results. And you can do batches. So say I want to produce 20 images like this. Each one now, well, it says it's going to take about 12 minutes to complete the process, but each one is sampled more. So higher values take longer. I'm not going to put it up too high, but it's going to do that. Then it's going to do 20 more. So you can kind of just pick ones that you like the look of. You don't have to use them all. And that's really it. There is a whole lot of other stuff that you can work out. There's a whole lot of settings in here to go through, and things that you can do in there, but there's plenty of other videos for that one. Image to image is quite cool. You can drag images in and modify them a little bit and ask, make this image look like something else. You can do your own training. If you've got your own set of images you want to train it on, your own face, and then it will show up in some of these AI generation things. So this looks more like a racing game here. To see the outcome, you can click this button here. It actually opens it down the bottom here, and then the output folder, which is the current date. And you can see all of those outputs in there. They don't really look that good compared. These ones aren't looking that good compared to the previous ones. I don't remember what model I used. So the basic Stable Diffusion one seems to do really well with faces, people, characters. But there are other ones that you can download that will do much better with other types of images, like landscapes. You can have a look around for different places to find those. But I hope you enjoyed this video and have fun with this tool.